Dear boomers, can we become greater than our environment? And can we become someone new in our second half of life? We are not our circumstances. We are greater than our environment. And it takes courage to become someone new at any age, but especially now. So let's think about this, shall we? There is a passage from Dr. Joe Dispenza's book that I keep returning to, not because it is dramatic, but because it is quietly demanding. And this is what it is. He writes, quote, to change then is to be greater than our present circumstances, greater than our environment. So when you think about it, we can't wait for happiness to come based on something outside of ourselves. And the sentence does not rush us, it doesn't promise shortcuts, and it doesn't flatter us. Instead, it asks something much deeper. Who are you being moment to moment? Do you love yourself? And for many of us, especially those of us in the second half of life, that question can feel both hopeful and unsettling. Why would that be? Well, we all have a little bit of anxiety throughout the day, and the environment we learn to live inside of, most of us were raised to believe that our environment determines who we become, who we are now, and who we used to be. Our family systems, our education, our work history, our health, and our age. And so by the time we reach our 60s, 70s, or beyond, these conditions can feel permanent. We adjust, we accommodate, we manage, and quietly, without realizing it, we stop asking, who else might I become in this wonderful new year, 2026? Joe Dispenza challenges that assumption at its root. He reminds us that environment influences us, but it doesn't have to define us. And in fact, it really doesn't need to influence us as long as we remain free in our mind and our heart. Personality creates personal reality. One of Dr. Dispenza's central teaching is this: our personality creates our personal reality. And personality is not just who we are. It is how we think and how we feel, how we react, and how we anticipate the future based on the past. But do we want to have a future based on the past? This is what we've been talking about in our YouTube channel for the last 8 days or so. And over time, these patterns become automatic. They feel safe and they feel familiar, but familiarity is not the same as truth. And as we know, familiarity breeds contempt. And when we repeat the same emotional states, the same internal dialogue, the same expectations day after day, we recreate the same life. Not because life is fixed, but because we are rehearsing ourselves into it, because we have a choice whether to be fixed or fluid and flexible. And so why does change feel so uncomfortable? Joe Dispenza is very clear about this. To create a new life, we must create a new personality. And this is where resistance arises. Because becoming someone new doesn't feel natural at first, and we feel like we're faking it. But because it feels unfamiliar, it can feel lonely, and it can even feel like a major loss. Especially later in life, when identity has been shaped over decades, change can feel like a betrayal. If I'm not this person anymore, who am I? But here is the truth. Many of us were never taught. We were never taught this truth, which is discomfort is not a sign of failure. In fact, we should welcome discomfort. We should welcome feeling like we are living in an unknown. It is a sign that the nervous system is leaving the known and entering the possible. This can become a daily practice. And actually, for it to work, it has to become a daily practice. We have to become greater than our environment. When Joe Dispenza says we must be greater than our environment, he is not asking us to deny reality. He is asking us to embrace truth, to stop letting reality dictate our inner state. Being greater than your environment this is what it means. You choose presence instead of reaction. So it's what we can do is start observing instead of reacting, choosing curiosity instead of resignation, and choosing intentional emotion instead of habitual mood. And it means you do not wait for circumstances to change before you feel peace, purpose, meaning, gratitude, joy, love, forgiveness. And you begin embodying those states first. And from those states of elevated consciousness, your life begins to reorganize. That is so cool. Why this matters so deeply for boomers and seniors in our last part of life. Many older adults are told subtly or directly that their best years are behind them. And people believe these things. That growth, we are taught that growth slows down, that reinvention is unrealistic, that acceptance means settling. And what are we settling for? I'm not sure. But Dr. Dispenza says this work says something radically different. Your brain is still capable of change. Your emotional patterns can still be rewired. Your future is not limited by your past unless you keep living from that past. This is not about becoming younger. It is about becoming more of who you are without the weight of outdated identities. And Dr. Joe talks about getting into the quantum fields to get a feel for all of this. So let me offer a simple reflections you can carry with you today. Each morning, ask yourself this: who would I be today if I were not defined by my circumstances? Not what would you do, but not what would you fix. And it has to do with who would you be in this present moment with a feeling of gratitude, with a feeling of embracing life, loving life. Would you feel calmer, more open, more curious, more compassionate with yourself? So we can practice that state of being, even briefly and even imperfectly. This is how a new personality begins, not with force, but with awareness. Think about things that you are thinking, and if it is not in accordance with these views and with this new personality we are defining, drop it. Because you and I are not late, and you and I are not behind, and you and I are not finished, because change does not require you to reject your past. It only asks that you stop living inside of it and thinking that it's true, thinking that every thought that you think is true, because to be greater than your environment is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of rebellion, of remembrance. Remembrance. You are more than your circumstances. You always have been, and you are still becoming a self that you can actually love and live with. That's my New Year wish for you, January 1st, 2026. Love to all. And please subscribe to the channel. I'm almost up to 900 subscribers, and thanks to you, I appreciate your support.